Okay, everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we have another video for you guys, this time focusing on Illumi Zoldyck. Now, I don't really see a lot of people talking about Illumi from Hunter x Hunter, so I'm looking forward to seeing this video and what exactly are Aleczandr's thoughts on Illumi, or specifically, I guess, the twisted love of Illumi Zoldyck. So let's not just waste any more of your time and play the video. Also, like he said, this will contain spoilers for the anime and the manga, so if you haven't read it, there's your warning.
参った俺の負けだよ
お前は熱を持たない闇人形だ。お前に友達を作る資格はない。必要もない。
Apart from Crollo Lucifer, Illumi Zoldyck is arguably the Hunter x Hunter character whose substance is most prominently emphasized in the subtle details and the mystery. Enigmatic as ever, the outward way in which his characterization manifests tells a very accurate story, but one that is only part of a whole, because there is so much more to him than that. The ideal way to sum Illumi up is by simply stating that he is the nearly perfect Zoldyck assassin, which, given context, is one of the saddest things you could say about a Hunter x Hunter character. But while we'll get into that in a little bit, his emotional impact is almost exclusively presented through how he affects Killua and how that relates to his role in the family. Illumi can be cold, detached, and aloof quite often, but this is in direct contrast to the type of person he is under a layer or two. Put simply, he is an extremely passionate person. He absolutely cares for his family, apart from Alluka, and is extremely invested in the success of their assassin business. He's ruthless, pragmatic, he doesn't panic, and he carries out his jobs with minimal fuss. He's a great assassin, and he has a true dedication to his craft and his blood. A factor more or less equally as important to him as his fixation on Killua during the election arc was his intention to prevent Alluka and Nanika from harming the family, which he believed that they would do. He very much has a worker ant mentality in the sense that he is even willing to offer his own life if it means that it will overall benefit the Zoldicks. And despite how skewed his perspective is at times, he is a brilliant protector of that which he cares about.
俺が死んで残る家族がセーフなら、それでもいいさ。
Yet this care that he has extends unhealthily towards his little brother, which could possibly
if
be
you're
a
wondering why I
hereditary
lower the
or
volume, it's
habitual
because,
thing that he picked up
again,
from his
I'm trying to
mother.
avoid copyright,
Everything
so
gets radicalized when Killua is involved,
if you're wondering why the
and
volume is
Illumi's
low in
calm
the
nature
comments.
goes completely out the window. He harbors a total and complete love for his brother, and this love manifests itself in obsessive and twisted ways that do to Killua what Illumi likely experienced himself as a child. Along with Silva, Illumi spent a great deal of time during Killua's early childhood trying to instill a darkness in him and trying to convince him that he can only find happiness, or at least fulfillment, through bloodshed.
お前は熱を持たない闇人形だ。
Illumi's main Nen power involves manipulative needles, which he can use to alter appearance and control others, among other things. These needles obviously have practical use in combat, but another significant function for them is using them to quote-unquote protect Killua. Illumi plants a needle in Killua as a psychological defense mechanism that will force him to run whenever he is facing a stronger opponent, and he disguises himself in order to keep an eye on his brother during the Hunter exam. His ideal end goal for this would be Killua coming home, realizing his assassin nature, and concluding that he does not need any friends or anyone other than his family. This may seem like a weird take, but I don't at all think that Illumi has intentions to harm his brother, at least prior to the election arc. He's just incredibly blind because he himself has been conditioned to believe the words that he tries to use to manipulate him. He just thinks that Killua is misguided. He is lying through his pseudo-hypnosis, but he doesn't even know it and believes his own words. He legitimately does want the best for Killua, but the problem is that his ideas for what's best for him are warped and totally out of line with how Killua actually thinks. As such, he goes about everything the wrong way in trying to help him, and if you combine this with his total love and his complete investment in his brother's future, it leads to downright antagonism to Killua's heartfelt desires. This nature of twisted love and misinterpreted motivations is very similar to the character of Shiapoof, and just like the Royal Guard, Illumi has a blind spot for reasons largely out of his control. He cannot comprehend a life outside of what he knows, and he refuses to believe that such a life could be valuable. Due to the ideologies instilled in the Zoldyck family, Illumi cannot understand and dismisses Killua's desire to become close with Gon, believing in his one-sided viewpoint that it is detrimental to Killua's development. What he doesn't realize is that it is absolutely beneficial to Killua's development, but this development is just opposite to what the Zoldicks want for him. Killua's desire for freedom doesn't compute, because choice is a foreign concept in the Zoldyck household. Illumi's reaction to Hisoka's perverse suggestion about Killua says more than words ever could of his care for his brother, but he pushes him away more than his mother and forms an even stronger antithesis to Killua's ideal self than his father. The reason for this is that Illumi is an example of the quintessential successful Zoldyck, as I said earlier, being a model assassin and carrying out the most lavish of jobs dutifully. And the way Illumi has turned out and the things he values prove more than ever to Killua that he does not want to live like this. He cares not for a false obligation to a family that caged him and made his life hell. He doesn't want to keep murdering people. In times of personal struggle for Killua, where he tried to overcome the habits of his upbringing, he would repeatedly say things like, "I don't want to be like Illumi." And while these are huge moments in Killua's character arc, they also add a tiny bit of a tragic element to Illumi. The irony of his character is that all he wants is to love and protect Killua and to serve his family, but he's so obsessive, narrow-minded, and extreme that his methods actually have the opposite effect. He just doesn't trust that Killua knows what's best for himself, when in all reality, that trust and freedom is exactly what Killua needs. Additionally, Illumi also has another side to his character, one that seems segregated from this twisted love, but actually may not be. A power-hungry, ambitious side that greatly lusts to possess Alluka's power. And due to Killua's special privilege regarding Alluka and Nanika's power, Illumi wants to control his brother even more to harness it. He's largely paradoxical.
Now he
wishes for no infighting within.
Now he wants to control Killua so he can get to Alluka because of her insanely, think about it, kind of broken ability, which to me is honestly one of the things that I'm really, really curious to see in the manga, because as of the recording of this video, the manga hasn't come back yet. Who knows, maybe if you're watching this one day in the future, maybe the manga's already come back yet. But one of the things that Togashi did set up that I'm really, really looking forward to see what he does with this is, Illumi says that he wants to go back to manipulating Killua because he believes it's the best way to manipulating Alluka, because Killua has the best relationship with Alluka. And to me, I'm wondering if maybe it's going to be one of those ones where Togashi kind of, and I know this people are kind of sour to this term at this moment, but subvert the audience expectations by making you think that something's going to happen, but it ends up not happening, because considering where Illumi is, he's on his way to the Dark Continent. It'll all depend on whether or not Illumi still survives to the end, considering that Illumi is a member of the Spiders, and Hisoka is on a mission to kill every other member of the Spider so that he could fight Crollo. This time he won't have help from the other Spiders like he did in their first fight. I'm really curious to see what Togashi does with this.
In the family, but is a cause of a lot of it. He wants Killua to return home, but everything he does pushes him farther away. He loves Killua and displays this love by doing the things that his brother hates. But aside from that, this element of his yearning for power leads into a very interesting question. Why specifically is Killua chosen to be the heir of the family business and not Illumi? He's the oldest, he's extremely talented, and arguably most importantly, he would be willing to do it, unlike his younger brother. There is a pattern that the white-haired Zoldyck of each generation tends to be the heir, but that is all of the information we have, and it seems like a strange guide to follow for the Zoldicks, especially given that Killua's personality is just not suited for it. There is undoubtedly more to it than that, and the Zoldicks must sense a huge gap in potential between the two, but overall, this is an ambiguous plot point full of mystery. And the fact that Illumi was ultimately not considered for the position...
I'm not gonna lie, this is interesting enough we pause on the same picture. This is also another thing that I'm really looking forward to see what Togashi does with this, because he had Silva say that Killua will eventually come back and he will take over the family. And it does kind of make sense, and he mentioned Killua's potential. And interestingly enough, we did watch a video where we talked about the video's focus was on the potential of Gon and Killua. And one of the things that was brought up is how much potential those two kids have, because they were only like, 14, 15? And they were able to keep up with adults with years of experience, which I know is a trope when it comes to show and manga, and even though Togashi has gone on some lengths to sort of like break those tropes, one thing that does kind of make Gon, and I guess to an extent Killua, the exception, is that he makes it clear that they may have, that it might be something in their DNA that makes them so special, especially considering Gon, knowing who his father is. And then of course it was mentioned, what was his name, Don Freaks, who's in the Dark Continent at the moment and has been there for years. And considering what was told to us about the Dark Continent and all the dangers, if that guy was able to survive, or woman, we don't know still, if that person was able to survive there for years, that should tell you that they have to be pretty damn tough. And maybe it's something that's in the family, which is something that him and Killua do have in common. And again, something else that I'm really, really looking forward to see what Togashi does with this. All right, let's go back to the video.
Could be hinting a little at why he does the things he does. Maybe, intermingled with his attachment to Killua, there is a little bit of jealousy due to hurt pride and unfulfilled desires. Maybe he views his brother as extremely lucky, and maybe he believes that he should be honored to be given the chance to do what he could not. Could there be a little bit of hot rage in there, some genuine anger conflated with his love due to him not wanting Killua to screw up or destroy something he cares about? Does he consider him ungrateful? Does he desire that power and status? Regardless, what is true is that Illumi wants him to be the best assassin possible, and he goes about this in a very personal way, so I would be extremely surprised if there wasn't some element of vicariousness here. It is not entirely clear why Illumi has grown to become this radically twisted and obsessive. Togashi has left the explicit details of his upbringing that would lend insight into this minimal and vague. But given his tendency to emphasize nurture and environment, and given the clearly dysfunctional nature of the Zoldyck family dynamics, I'm sure that Illumi would not have become this way if he grew up as a normal boy. Would he have been so power-hungry if he had not been bereft of choice for his entire life? And more importantly, would he have been this obsessive if he were treated with care and empathy as a kid? It's very much established that he loves his family due to the aforementioned reasons, but in return, what have they provided him with in terms of nurturing and affection? A grandfather disinterested in the concept of love, a father that manipulates his children and treats them as foot soldiers fated to carry out his will. A mother who, while definitely capable of affection, is far too excessive and crazed to be considered the healthy source of comfort and security that all mothers should be for their children. All in all, a family who are incapable of and disinterested in providing their children with what children require psychologically and emotionally. It is no wonder at all that Illumi is so twisted. What's more curious is that his other siblings are not more messed up than they are. The Zoldicks are not a true family, but a business. A self-perpetuating cycle of apathy, a production line of children who are disturbed or left wanting in some way or another. Killua's journey has offered us a glimpse into the way that a Zoldyck child is brought up, but part of what makes Killua special is his nature, his conviction and desire to forge a better life for himself. What if Illumi was just never imbued with that sort of resilience? What if he would have run away if he could have, in order to find proper human connection and identity, but he just never had the courage? And now, being a fully grown adult with a set psychology, he is way too far gone to even entertain any of these ideas. This is all his life has ever been. It's all that he knows. Maybe he focuses on Killua so much because he is thoroughly starved of human affection and control due to the sad nature of his life, and consciously or otherwise, he finds no other way to fill this hole in his soul other than overcompensating with a twisted, pathological brotherly love. Maybe Killua being drawn to Gon and Alluka is Illumi's worst nightmare, representative of this affection and control being taken away from him. This is just my personal way of musing on the subject, but it would make sense and it is consistent with Togashi's ever-present focus on perspective, environmentalism, and a lack of moralizing. This obviously is not, in any sense, a justification and excuse for Illumi's actions, but it provides depth, richness, and an element of tragedy to the character and the series as a whole. Illumi's story could go any number of ways from where it is now, but what is clear is that due to reasons completely out of his control, he will probably never find the normalcy and empathy in the world that he may have desired. Perhaps he is just twisted because it's in his nature, and perhaps he would have grown up the same way regardless. It is a possibility, after all, but the point is that we have no way of knowing, because he was never in control of his own destiny, and because he was starved of the freedom to find out for himself from the day he was born. Many thanks for watching.
キルアは生涯苦しむだろう。俺はキルアの心の中で永遠に生き続ける。
Okay, so there's the video. Now, this is absolutely interesting. Again, Illumi for me is a character that, like I said, I don't see many people talking about all that much. Aleczandxr is probably the first person I've seen who's actually made a video, you know, where he made this character, where he made this character sort of the focus of the actual video. And yeah, he brought up a lot of interesting points. I mean, that's one thing that's been kind of noteworthy about how the children of the Zoldyck family are raised. They're, you know, they don't get treated like an actual family. Like their elders treat them as tools for whatever they need to get done. And it does kind of suck because you do see the effect that it has on those kids. I mean, Alluka was put off in some, sorry if you heard that, Alluka was put off in some corner so that her power doesn't affect people. And Illumi was raised to be, you know, what he is. Killua, they tried to do the same to him, but he's the only one who at least tried to break out of it. And you could say, yeah, maybe that is one of the reasons why Illumi has such, or harbors such animosity towards Killua or tries to control him, because maybe he on some level looks at Killua and what he's trying to do, and maybe in some way hates himself for not at least trying to do the same thing, because Keel was trying to get out of that. He's trying to build a better life for him. He's trying to actually build connections with people, and he did that with Gon, and through Gon he made other friends in his journey with him. And now, considering where they are, they've separated. Now I still fully believe that these two are going to come back together again. It just depends on when. I mean, personally, I think that whenever Togashi decides to bring Gon back into the story, I feel like that in some way is going to lead to Killua being brought back to the story, and we'll finally find out what's been happening with him. Although for me, one thing that I would like to see with that, Gon and Killua meeting up again, is I would like to see Gon sort of, because I would hate for this to happen off screen. I would like to see Gon sort of, reconcile what happened in, back in the Chimera Ant arc, where he sort of kept pushing Killua away, and him sort of feeling guilty about that and trying to resolve his feelings about what he did during the arc, where he let his emotions get the best of him, which again, it's understandable considering what happened. And we did see a video that focused on Gon, thanks also from Aleczandxr. But yeah, I would like to actually see that, and maybe that becomes sort of a catalyst to Gon figuring out who he is now, and maybe that's gonna also catapult him to learning about Nen again, and maybe this time he'll actually have a different ability, because we know that one's Nen ability is a reflection of their personality. So who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, consider leaving a like, share the video if you haven't, subscribe if you haven't, and click the bell icon to let you know whenever I post a new video and whenever I go live. And if you are subscribed, check to make sure you're still subscribed, because YouTube does unsubscribe people without their notice. So just do me a favor and try to check and see if you're still subscribed. All right, that's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much again. Remember to stay safe and take care of yourselves, and please join me for the next video. Bye for now.